But what I think is most fascinating about when something like this happens, so I think chocolate prices and inflation generally, the food producers have tried for a long time to keep the prices as low as possible with shrinkflation and things like that. But you can't really make a chocolate bar any smaller now. I think they're kind of at that crunch point where the only thing left to do is keep putting prices up. And therefore, I think these prices are going to keep going up and up to the point where people start to think about, when a chocolate bar hits £2, you're going to be thinking, am I really going to be paying £2 for a Mars bar every day? Probably not. It's going to become a treat. So I think that we're going to start to see a really significant shift in the way that chocolate's marketed. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of these artisan chocolate companies out there already, but I think it's going to become much, much bigger. And the messaging around what is essentially this cheap candy that is packed full of basically chemicals and sugar and things like that to make a Mars bar or something like cheap like that, versus what will become an artisan luxury quality product. We've seen it with food, like artisan food producers get away from the big manufacturers and use like proper wholesome foods. And we saw it with the drinks companies with like these hand brewed beers and things like that. And I think chocolate will be the next sort of trend that we'll see come out of this.